I'm Dr. Patrick Canavan. I'm the chair of the board. And I just want to welcome you and say thank you for joining us. Someday we won't have all these technical issues, and I hope that day would also include maybe being in person at some point, which would be great. What I'd like to start with first is if we could introduce the members of the board. If you would introduce yourself, I'll just kind of go through with the folks who I see in the order I see on the screen. So we'll start with Ilana Settenberg.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ilana Settenberg. I'm Special Counsel for Legislative Affairs at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Okay, and Emily Gunston.
Good morning. I'm Emily Gunston. I am Deputy Attorney General for Policy and Legislative Affairs at the D.C. Attorney General's Office.
Sonia Weil.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sonia Weil. I am Senior Legislative Counsel for Councilmember Charles Allen.
And Reverend Whitaker.
So I'm Reverend Whitaker. I'm Mayor's Representative for the residents, incarcerated residents on the board.
And Felisa Carr.
Good morning, everyone. This is Felisa Carter. I'm a member of the board with a specialty in issues regarding returning citizens.
So those are the appointed and by statute members of the board of the Clemency Board. And I would also like to introduce
Patrick. Excuse me, I'm here.
Oh, Andrew, I'm very sorry. Please excuse me, Andrew Foyce.
Yeah, hi, Andy Foyce here. I work at the Administrative Office of U.S. Courts, and I am the Criminal Justice appointee to the board.
Yeah, it's funny. Your block is there, but I don't see a photo, so I apologize for that omission there. So what I'd also like to do is, there's a very prominent role that the Office of the General Counsel and the Executive Office of the Mayor plays in the operation of the Clemency Board. And I just wanted folks to meet the people who are really serving that staff director role for us and for their leadership and guidance around the legal matters pertaining to the board. First, I see that we have Betsy Cavendish on the board. Betsy, if you just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm the General Counsel for Executive Office of the Mayor. Pleasure to see you all, and thanks for everybody's work, and especially to echo Patrick, Christina Sacco has been doing the majority of the work here, and she really gets a lot of credit in this exciting project to stand up the Clemency Board.
Thank you. And I could see Vanessa for a moment, but now she's gone. I don't know if Vanessa, are you available for audio? Yep, there you are. Want to just introduce?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Vanessa Carrera, I'm Deputy General Counsel here in the Executive Office of the Mayor.
Great, thank you. And Christina, who Betsy just really called out in a very positive way because of the amazing work that she's done to keep this process moving. But Christina?
Hi, everyone. All very too kind comments, but Christina Sacco, Associate General Counsel here in the Mayor's Executive Office.
And there are two new members who may not be known to other board members, but Tanette Smith has also joined. Tanette, can you introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Tanette Smith. I'm also an Associate General Counsel in the Executive Office of the Mayor. Happy to be joining you all today.
And then finally, we have a Beverly Perry Fellow, Hugh Mayo. Hugh?
Hi, good morning. I'm Hugh Mayo. I'm the new Beverly Perry Fellow in the Office of General Counsel.
Great. Thank you very much. So for members of the community, there are a number of additional community members here today, which I'm really, really pleased about. Typically, the opportunity for community members to speak will come towards the end of our agenda, where you're able to we have a period for public comment. So really welcome you here. Really excited to see the pool of folks who have interest in what we're doing as a Clemency Board, and as we formalize our regulations in particular, expanding. So welcome to all of you, and we look forward to hearing your comments. And with that, I'm going to move right to the agenda. And first, there is no old business, so we'll go right into new business. And the first piece of new business really is the regulations. And I'm going to ask Christina Sacco from the Office of the General Counsel to give an update on the regulations. I will tell you that Christina will be somewhat modest in her presentation, we have had extensive comments from the community on the draft regulations, and I am very happy with the way we're moving. It causes some other sort of delays on our part because we are listening to those comments so directly and making changes as the board sees fit. So Christina, you want to give us an update?
Sure, yes. So just a bit of background, we did issue our proposed regs on August 13th, 2001, and it was out for comment period, and it closed on September 13th of 2001. And since then, we've been processing and received a total of 91 comments. And by comments, we also include comments that we received during our last meeting from the public about how the regs should be changed or modified in certain ways. And so we're really thankful because that's the whole purpose of notice and comment, is to highlight issues that we should consider, especially when it affects the public and the district, and that's something we're cognizant and considerate of. So with the 91 comments that we've received, they really fall within a couple of tranches, and one is that the regulation should be sent directly to the President of the United States, that the prerequisite for there to be a DOJ application should be removed, and that the regulations in general should be just silent on the DOJ application in general, so we could have more flexibility in the future with respect to clemency. And we also received additional comments about notice and adding additional notice requirements about missing documents, and then adding more notice requirements for hearings that the board, should the board decide to hold hearings on various applications. So those are the majority of the tranches that we've received. And as of right now, we won't be reviewing the regs at this meeting, which is what our intention was, because of the vast amount we've received. We're considering those comments that the public has submitted, and we're considering them highly. So that's where we're at. And once we're ready to do that, we're happy to walk the public through each step of the regs once that is finalized.
Thank you for that update. So I wanted to just open, if any board members would like to ask for clarification, we'll go to the public later, but if any of the board members would like to ask for any clarification on this, as Christina said, 91 comments, significant, has really caused us to soul search and to legally research. Thankfully, we have great legal minds doing that, and trying to figure out a process that, one, is as simple as it possibly can be, but two, that really does affect the full authority of the board and recognizes the other partners and the limits of some of our authority as well. So that's been heard loud and clear, and I'm very excited about where we're going with this. It does cause that delay. I was hoping today that we would be able to, have a more thorough discussion of the actual regs, but with the changes we're making, I think this is time well spent. So with that, do any board members have any questions?
Patrick, this is Felisa. I was wondering if that was Christina. Can you give me one more read through of what the various, I guess, categories in which the regulatory, I guess, the comments, public comments on the regs were? My computer went down for a minute, but I'm back. So.
Sure, happy to do that, Felisa. So the majority of tranches, so we've received duplicates of the same comment, but they fall under the following categories. One is that the letter of recommendation that the board sends should go directly to the president to add that to the regulation. The second is that the prerequisite to ask applicants to apply with the DOJ prior to applying with a board should be removed, and that in general that the DOJ application should be silent, the regs should be silent on the DOJ application entirely to offer the board flexibility in the future when it comes to clemency issues. And the other two were with respect to notice requirements, adding a second notice requirement to applicants who have, like, for instance, missing documents, and the other notice requirement was with respect to hearings and what that would look like.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
Other questions from board members? Comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on. Thank you. Our next item of new business is I'd like to motion to add an update to the application committee to the agenda and ask the board members for their A to confirm its addition. Basically here we want to add something to the application committee and I want to make sure it's okay for us to talk about here. So I need the board to tell me it's okay to add this to the agenda. So if you'd signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, Patrick.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 6 in favor. Thank you. So now we'll move to committee updates, and the first will be the application committee. I'm going to ask Emily Gunson to give an update on the application committee, and she can explain to us what we just did.
Hi, good morning, everybody. The update is that the application committee met yesterday. As a reminder, we're trying to put together an application that's a very, very simple application for folks to be able to apply for clemency to the DC Board of Parole, as opposed to the more complicated DOJ application. So we can't really finalize that until the regs are finalized, because we don't know exactly what's going to be in the regs, and we're still working on that. But one of the things that we discussed is, given some of the things that are being considered in changes to the regulations, how we could add to the application a release, which would allow us to a release for applicants to sign, which would allow us to obtain background information on the applicants for us to consider their clemency application. So that's where we are. And once we have a better sense of what the regs are going to look like, that will allow us, I think, to put a little more meat on the bones of the application.
Thank you on that. Are board members, any questions for Emily or for the applications committee? So again, this is just, this is a downstream impact of the comment period that you're already trying to broaden it such that we can fully accommodate that as we go forward.
That's right.
Awesome. Yeah. Any comments or questions from board members? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to now call on Sonia Wael to give an update on the prioritization committee.
Thanks, Patrick. So the committee met this past Wednesday, and we continued our discussion about the types of applications the board should prioritize. And we've been focusing specifically on the groups mentioned in the statute, which are the elderly, terminally ill, individuals who are no longer a danger to the community, and individuals convicted under a sentencing scheme that's since been changed to provide for less harsh penalties. So we've been continuing looking at those and trying to flesh out definitions for those, as well as think through other potential priority groups to consider. And as we firm up our definitions and the specifics of those, we hope to include that information on the application, as well as on the board's website, just so that the public and people applying for clemency have transparency and an understanding of what we're looking at.
Excellent. So just again, the prioritization committee is looking, there are some things called out in the statute, and then there are other things that we may decide to add in the future. And this group is the one that's trying to clarify the definitions, and then to look on the horizon about what might be out there in the future for us. Any questions for Sonia or for anybody on the committee? Questions? Okay. Now I'm going to call on Felisa Carter to give an update on the Community Engagement Committee. Felisa.
Good morning, everyone. This is Felisa Carter from the Community Engagement Committee. We met on October 1st, and we've been busy reaching out to various groups and stakeholders regarding letting them know about what the Clemency Board has been up to, and letting them know about our work. We've been reaching out to government agencies and nonprofits and advocacy groups. And groups we've reached out to so far during our time as a committee has been DC Reentry Task Force, the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens, Voices for a Second Chance, Network for Victim Recovery DC, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and the Public Defender Service. We will continue to reach out to various organizations and expand this list. We welcome input from the public to inform us about other groups that may be of relevance or interest to our committee, and we would like those organizations to reach out to us, or if anyone has any contact information to possibly give us so we can reach out to them, that would be great. We can be reached, the public can reach out to the Community Engagement Committee via email at Clemency, CLEMENCY @dc.gov. And thank you for letting me give you an update about what our committee has been up to.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Felisa or for members of the Community Engagement Committee? The fruit of your labor, I think, is coming up just in a moment when we open to public comments, and already seeing a number of the organizations that you mentioned and some others have joined us today. So really pleased for that, and thank you for the efforts on that. Board members, any questions? Okay, hearing none. All right, so we'll now move on to the public comment section. This is a period where the public is invited to bring issues before the board that you think are important to us, either ones we've raised here or other things that you would like us to consider. So we can go ahead and do that. I think somebody from OGC, I don't know if you have to open microphones or allow that. You'll take care of that, Christina?
Sure. Yes, I typically do it alphabetically. So we're just looking at the participants list. So first up, we have Bridget Orley.
Hello, everybody. Bridget Worlier, student attorney at Howard University School of Law, Reentry Clinic, and just thank you for having me. I don't have any comments right now.
Great, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Bridget. Up next, we have Courtney Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for that report. And I do have a few questions, but I limit it to just one for now. I'm really interested in whether or not a previously incarcerated person can sit on the board. Actually, more than one, but in particular, have you all considered that, or am I missing something? Or
So I'll take a stab at it and then maybe ask some of the lawyers to talk about it as well, Mr. Stewart. So the board was constituted by, there was a hearing that around a proposed law to create the Clemency Board that went through a DC Council hearing process. And it's at that point that I think membership on the board was determined from a wider group. And then, of course, it went through the normal process where the council voted on that. I know that the mayor commented ahead of that as well. And then finally, the mayor signed that bill into law. So the process for the establishment of the board is kind of above the pay grade of this board. But it is certainly something that we can think about and, toss around. So,
yeah, I remember that process, Patrick. So I think, let me put it another way then. Let me just put it, because I actually thought, I didn't know that, I thought that was one of the recommendations in that process. But how can what do we need to do to make that happen? Because I think it would add a lot of credibility to the board. We're in the 21st century, and you have a lot of successful individuals who have came from the criminal legal system and have came back to the city doing well. Matter of fact, many of them working in government and other top positions in the city. So I think any one of those individuals would make a good board, Clemency board member for sure. So I would like to know if what would be.
On the nine.
Say that.
Listen.
Patrick, do you want me to jump in and talk about
If I could just interrupt, I think Mr. Anthony Petty, I think you're off of mute. If you could please mute
Okay.
your.
Okay, my bad.
Thank you.
Thanks. Emily, you want to go ahead, please?
Yeah, so, and folks from the mayor's office can jump in, Mr. Stewart. I just wanted to, I think that the way that the composition of the Clemency Board was created is the statute lays out the category of folks who can be members of the board. I think I'm on it as like, there's just a representative of the Office of the Attorney General's office. I think there's a representative of the Public Defender's office. And then there's 5, we can pull up the DC code to actually get you all of those folks. But then there's 5 of them that are appointed by the mayor in the following categories. 1 is a DC Board attorney member. 1 is a member with experience in returning citizens. 1 is somebody with experience in mental health, a member with a background in victims' rights, and then somebody who's a District of Columbia resident. And I think what happened was the mayor's office set up an application process to be appointed to the board for folks who wanted to fill one of those positions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to just make sure, Mr. Stewart, let's state the name of your organization one more time and give you as much airtime as we can.
My organization is the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens.
Thank you. We appreciate your participation today.
Could I add something, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Thanks for your participation. And the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments is the portal to go to for applying to serve on a board. And we welcome people to apply and for this board or others that are being created. And we value participation in other ways besides just board service. So like comments on the regulation and even your participation here is very welcome. So thank you.
That's a really important addition. And MOTA, Mayor's Office of Talent, is, I believe it's mota.dc.gov. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Patrick, may I say something?
Yes. Yes, please.
Patrick, this is Felisa Carter. And I just wanted to add to what Mr. Stewart was kind of pointed out to us. We realized that, well, at least I'm not going to speak for everybody else. I realized that it may seem that there's a lot of attorneys on this board as it stands right now, but we are just the kind of inaugural or initial, I guess, board members. We're the initial board members. We're not board members for life. So therefore, as terms change or come to an end, let's get the word out that if there are candidates that want to fulfill a board member seat, they're welcome to do that by, I guess, putting their applications in with the MOTA, Mayor's Office of Talent, and I forgot what the AIM stands for right now, but yeah, that's simply what they can put to that. Yes. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay, Christina, who's next?
Next on the list, we have Professor Ross.
I'm able to unmute so everyone can hear me. Is that right? Okay, great. So first of all, thank you so much. I feel like the 3 of us or 4 of us, I guess 3 of us at the last meeting made some comments, and the fact that it was listened to, that's what I'm hearing from the reports today, really makes us happy. I've also should say that I've been emailing with Ms. Sacco here, and she has been very open to making sure like that everybody had time to comment and so forth. So I appreciate that as well. Also, I have to say 91 is a really good number, and I'm hearing from the chairman that this is welcome, that the community is being involved. And I really am happy that it's not just Howard on this phone call today, that we have other community members who have already started to speak up. That is really important. So the one thing that Ms. Sacco and I talked about that I feel like needs a little bit of resolution is those of us who are at Howard, we had wanted to look at the regulations after they're completed before the board votes. And the reason for that is that would allow us to contact Ms. Sacco, contact members of the board, because the voting is when these are going to be solidified. And the response I got was that we would need the board to basically agree to this. And I suppose it's by majority vote. So I'm wondering if that could be like extra business today, whether we could have a board vote, and I don't care if it's public or, private ballot, but to make sure that when these are complete, we get to see them and we can respond. Because I'm hearing, it sounds like this is doing what we want it to do. It's going to carry the water that we asked, but nevertheless, much better position to be able to participate. And I know that the goal of bringing the community in is so that there's more participation. And I would also mention that initially the board had brought us in to propose some regulations and propose applications. So, the idea of continuing to keep us involved is very, very useful. So that's my first request. And then the other question I have is, Ms. Gunston mentioned that there'll be a redo of the application process, which is great. And I did send Ms. Sacco the applications that we created for pardon and also for pardons and commutations, the 2 separate ones plus the instructions that we had prepared a year ago. So they might be useful for that committee. Just, I don't think I gave it to that committee, so maybe, I'm not sure everybody's on the committee, but I will make sure that that gets out there. And the question is that once we are switching now, instead of it being a Office of Pardon Attorney, and it doesn't go to the DOJ, once it's that the original application is coming to the board, then as Ms. Gunston says, there'll be a release that gets signed. Absolutely. But then is it the mayor's office's job at this point to then go and get all the documents? Because that was one of the things that we raised at that meeting, that a year ago, about one of the difficulties, especially if you're a DC prisoner and you're getting moved prison to prison, to actually get all the records can be very, very difficult. So I'm wondering if that is what the mayor's office is willing to take on, and also whether that requires more staffing and anything that you want outsiders like us to help get the interest up so that there is enough staffing to do that. So that's my primary question. And then I also neglected to also thank Felisa Carter. She reached out to us and said, did we want to be involved, the reentry clinic, in reaching out to different organizations and presenting, because we've done that on other issues. And the answer is yes, but we wanted to make sure that the regulations were something that we could stand behind and really see this as something going forward. So again, thank you. And if anyone can handle that question about the vote, I'd like to hear it.
Thanks, Professor Ross. Appreciate your comments and the longstanding involvement of the Howard University Law School and your reentry clinic and the wonderful students you've brought with you throughout the various periods. I don't actually know the answer about how procedurally how we will move the regs on. Obviously, we want as much public comment as we can. I'm also, I feel responsible to get this process moving, and we delayed the regulations at this point so that we could make these really, really important changes. So it's a balancing act from my perspective about how we do that, but maybe there's someone else from OGC that can help.
I'm happy to answer Professor Ross's questions, if that's all right with you, Patrick. Can I? Okay, great. Professor Ross, first off, thank you very much. We're very grateful for Howard's involvement and all the comments we received from Howard and the students in the reentry clinic. So thank you for being involved. With respect to the regs, like sending out the regs to Howard solely, I think one thing we certainly do is prioritize sending it to everyone because we want everyone to have access to that. And I think that I understand you want to have it ahead of time before a meeting to discuss it. I can understand how the public would want to do that. So everything we make accessible to the public at that time, we'll also make accessible to Howard and allow for that opportunity so the public can come informed to a meeting when it's finalized.
So in other words, it will be before the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that was your first question. With respect to the application that you mentioned with the releases, whether the mayor's office would be the one to retrieve that information. For right now, we're still working out the kinks and the details in order to answer that question, but that is our intention that we would retrieve that. And yes, it would be internally within our staff. With the staffing question with respect to getting more individuals and clinics involved to help prop up this clemency board, absolutely, that's something we certainly, it's going to be a community effort. We'd want to reach out to other universities, other schools, other organizations who are willing to help, with the application process.
Oh, actually, you misunderstood my question. It was vague. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know we've been in contact a lot with CCE, who drafted the original statute, and they were concerned to make sure that there was a full-time staff person involved who could do things like this and get the regs. And I know that the mayor's office, like somebody like you, can be overstretched. But right now, that position has never been filled, right? To have a full-time staff person that's helping the board, because the board all has daytime jobs, So that's what I was asking about.
Okay, the hiring of a full staff person to process these. Certainly, and I think that is something we're aware of and something we're processing. We haven't finalized everything, but we're aware that someone would need to be in that position.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. I think I covered all your questions, Professor Ross, right? Okay.
Great. And then who would be next on the list for public comments? Are there others?
Next on the list, we have Lauren Jenkins. No comments from Ms. Jenkins? Okay. Next on the list, we have Nicole Alves.
Good morning. I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list is Professor Moy. Any comments from Professor Moy?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us again. So Professor Ross and I have been teaching together for too long because the comment that I was going to make was a comment that she's already made. And that is expressing concern about section 705.1, which talks about the application process. And it just says that if documents are missing, then the board will let the applicant know that documents are missing. And if they don't hear anything within 6 months, then the case would be closed. And my concern is that, yes, there are going to be folks who are all over the country who don't have access to documents to complete the application. And I really believe that the burden should not be placed on individuals to get documents that a government agency would have such easy access to. And so I appreciate your response and consideration, and knowing that at least you're thinking about having someone in the office who can gather those documents. So I appreciate that, and that's my only comment this morning. And I do think the fact that 91 comments were submitted really shows the interest of the community, and the voice of the folks that should govern this agency that you all are a part of. So I just encourage you to continue to listen to the community and to the people that you serve. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Moyne. Next up is Patricia Marks.
Good morning. Thank you. No comments, just here to observe.
Thank you. Next up, we have Raymond Phillips. No comments from Mr. Phillips. Next up, we have Tonio Calhoun. No comments from Tonio Calhoun.
Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, all right.
I heard that there was 91 comments made, and so I was wondering if we could do comment number 92. And it's really a question about what an individual brought up earlier about having someone on the board that is also a returning citizen. And I know we talked about going through MOTA, .dc.gov and all of that, but also if there's any way that the board itself could make a request that there be a returning citizen on the board as well, some kind of impassioned plea that there also be somebody on this board. And I realized that someone mentioned that there was someone with experience in returning citizens on the board. Does anyone know who that individual is?
That would be me, Felisa Carter.
Okay. Yes, and that's I think that's great and all. But I'm assuming you're not an actual returning citizen yourself.
You are correct, sir.
Yes, right. And so I believe that it would be beneficial to have somebody on this board that does have this actual experience, who this actually affects personally, as well as someone who has experience in dealing with these people that it affects personally. And like I said, I realize that there's other organizations to go through. It's just that, unfortunately, a lot of times when we hear these kinds of things, go to this, go to that, a lot of times we hear a lot of like red tape and, kind of like almost like excuse making, which is something that the government is known for. So that's why we really want to know if the board itself can really make some kind of request and kind of step in, so that there doesn't have to be all these third parties that we have to go through and and take months and years just to get something simple like this done.
So it's Patrick Canavan. Speaking for myself, I would welcome a returning citizen as a member of the board. I think that's a great addition to what we're doing. We're working within a government process, and the way you do that's through MOTA. So in terms of supporting someone who's interested in doing that, I personally am in favor of doing that myself. There's been no board conversation about this. So, in terms of us making that determination as a board, I think we have to do more internal conversation around that. But I absolutely hear what you're saying. I agree that having a returning citizen on the board is a wonderful idea. And I also know what you're saying about, bureaucracy and kind of pointing elsewhere in it. And I apologize for that. I also know that sometimes getting you to the right person who can actually honor your request is the best way to do it. And MOTA actually is that is the most expedient way to do it. There are a number of board terms coming up, and you know, I think there's also spots available on the Clemency board. So it's an opportune time for people who have interest to state that interest. And honestly, that's the process that would have to happen. Even if the board said, you know, we think you should do this, and we're 100% in favor of it, it would still need to go through that process. So that's, I think, where the Betsy's statement about MOTA comes in. It's not to put you off. Okay. I think we have a pretty good track record so far of actually really listening and really responding to the community. So I really appreciate that comment, Mr. Calhoun.
Patrick.
Patrick, can I say one more thing?
Oh,
yeah. So Andrew.
Yeah. Hi. Another way to do this, and perhaps the most definite way, is to go back to the council and have the council amend the implementing statute and add a spot to the board specifically for a returning citizen. You know, MOTA is a little bit, their hands are a little bit tied. They have to fit people into the slots that the council described, and they didn't directly describe a returning citizen as a member of the board. So if you get the statute amended, then MOTA will have to appoint a returning citizen. As it is now, they do not, and in fact, the scales weigh against it because there's no real description that fits a returning citizen. So that's again, without giving you more hoops to jump through, that is what I think is the best way.
Thank you, sir. That is exactly the kind of answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Well, Patrick,
yeah,
no, I was just going to say what Andy just said, so I don't need to say it again. So, thank you, Andy.
Okay.
Reverend, I'm sorry for stealing your thunder.
You read my email, but that's okay.
Yeah, you mind if I say one thing here? This is a clemency board, right? And we all know the processes in the city, you know, and I think that Mr. Calhoun made a good point about red tape and all of that, and even through the council. And we would do that. We don't worry. We know that that's the process, and we've been through the process many times, so we understand that. But the board is already established. You're already working. You have draft regulations. He asked, could this particular request be a part of the regulations? And then I'm appealing to the board because the board has power. Most of the individuals that make up this board has been involved in reentry issues for a very long time. So the board has a lot of influence and a lot of power in the city. So, you know, that's where the appeal is. The appeal is to the board. We do the necessary things that we need to do as far as the government and the process is concerned. But like we need to like move on a faster track, and this should have been a consideration anyway. It should have been considered from you know, just like a lot of these the 91 comments. I mean, a lot of those things should have been considered a long time ago. So we all know that. So I mean, like, this is where we at in this 21st century. So we need a you know, the board probably could make it a faster process than any other process.
Okay, thank you. Christina?
Next on the list is Anthony Petty.
Good morning. I thank all y'all for allowing me to speak. And I agree with Mr. Calhoun that there's a need for a returning citizen on the board. And I think that's something that the board should ask the council about, for the simple fact, just for the lived experience, to have a better understanding of some of the questions that need to be asked. As the professor said, some of the procedures that individuals in these positions have to go through just to get paperwork those are things that people with lived experience know about. So I just think if it's possible that the board will ask the council there itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Petty. Christina?
Next up on the list is Wendell Watson. Okay. No comments from Wendell Watson, and that's everyone on the list.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And I do appreciate the wider conversation today. And I do appreciate the clear message from many community members about returning citizen membership on the board. And that is something that we will have our conversations about. So you've been heard, and I intend that will become an agenda item for us as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome, and I'm really glad you're here. I just widening out the group. Just this is the exact right kind of momentum that we seek to build in getting this issue in front of the public much more fully. And that you're here makes a difference to us. So thank you very much to everybody who had a comment today. At this point, I think we're probably ready to adjourn. I would say that I'm trying to do a little tea leaf reading right now in understanding what might be a reasonable deadline for us to meet again about regulations. And right now, I'm thinking that maybe if we could schedule a public board meeting on the regulations sometime in the first week of December. I would normally have said the last week of November, so it would be 4 weeks from now, but that happens to be the day after Thanksgiving, and I'm pretty sure that's a day where many people will be unavailable. So if we went to the following Friday, which would be, I believe, Friday, December 3rd at 10:30, I'm going to propose that to board members, and we'll do this same thing where we'll do the public notice of our meeting with the 2-week notice in the DC Register and all the normal stuff, but also we'll let people who have participated on this call today, if we have your way to contact you, we would welcome it. If you want to put it in the chat, we'd be happy to make sure that you get notified when that public notice goes in.
May I make a request? The law students are going to be in exam period at that time. If you can make it the week before Thanksgiving, that would allow us to attend.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be practical about the internal process that these documents need to go through. And I'm hoping beyond hope that they would be prepared that week before. And if we know that it will be, we will do a public notice for a meeting earlier. I just want to be realistic, and I don't want to waste people's time, and I don't want to set a false hope for that. It's a process, and it's not something that's completely controlled by any one individual. So if we can, we will, and you'll know about that as well. We'll notify folks about that as well.
Thank you.
Sure. With that, unless there are any other comments by board members, any comments from board members? No?
Yeah, I have one, Patrick.
Yes, please.
What would be the mechanism for making a motion or taking the initiative to put this question of a returning citizen on the board on our agenda for the next meeting, and specifically to discuss whether or not the board feels it's appropriate to write to Chairman Mendelson and Chairman Allen requesting an amendment to the authorizing statute, as a couple of the public witnesses urged us. So do we need to discuss and vote on an agenda item for next week or next time, or do we just talk about that, offline?
I'm going to ask my friends at OGC. I don't actually, I don't know if there's a way that we must do it or can't do it or whatever. So can somebody give me some guidance?
I think it's totally up to the board to vote if they want to take that on, and we can make it happen.
Okay. So, Andy, would you like to make a motion that be added to the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, I so move, and it is specifically to repeat that we discuss the suggestion to somehow get a returning citizen on the board, and specifically whether or not we write to the council to urge them to amend the underlying statute.
Second.
I'm seconding it. Oh,
I second that emotion. I mean, sorry, that motion.
Okay, so I've heard a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So I hear, I believe, 6 ayes, 5 ayes.
And we
Six.
abstain because we're non-voting members.
Oh, okay, and any, are there any noes? Hearing none, so it's, and with one
Abstention.
abstention, we'll go ahead and put that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you for everyone's support.
So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
second.
We are
Second.
adjourned. We are adjourned. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, see you next
Thank
time.
you.
Good job, Patrick, Christina. Excellent.
Good
Thank
job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for inviting us.
Glad you're here, Mr. Stewart.